Good morning. I know for our teachers and principals, this is like, we've been up forever. So for some of us, it's like, man, it's early. So thank you all for coming out this morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to our called board meeting. As a reminder, we will be dealing with just one issue. So that's all we're here to talk about today. If everyone would, please stand. I will lead us in a moment of silence and pledge the flag. Thank you. Attention. Salute. Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Time for citizens to speak in accordance with Board Policy 1.404. Anyone wishing to address the board, please come forward, state your name and your address. And again, remember, it must. Only thing that you can speak about this morning is for our superintendent position. No one? All right. Let's move on. It's time to approve the regular agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So the floor is now open to accept nominations for the recommendation for hiring a permanent director of schools for the Elizabethton school system.
Yes, I would like to nominate Dr. Gardner for the permanent superintendent position.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All right. Any discussion?
Yes. I just wanted to say that I know that a lot of people have thought that this was a foregone conclusion some time ago. It wasn't. Far from it. We've all worked very hard and listened to many people in the past several months. We had two very qualified candidates, and they both had excellent credentials, educational backgrounds, and references, and Elizabethton would have been blessed to have both of them. So for me, the next consideration has been the overwhelming support from and respect of the teachers and the staff. Dr. Gardenauer I have heard from many people in the system who have praised his leadership skills, his integrity, his vision, and his way of dealing with personnel. He's a person who's willing to do what's right, and he listens to everyone. This, to me, is of utmost importance, considering the climate in past years. He believes in a team approach to decision-making, but is also willing to make the tough decisions and stand by them. He's shown this during his months as interim superintendent. He said he wants this place to be a place where people enjoy and look forward to coming to work. So many have said that he is what he says he is. I was one of the skeptics in the beginning, but Dr. Gardenauer has more than proven to me that he's truly his own man. So for that reason, I hope that we will vote to confirm Dr. Gardenauer as our next superintendent. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything they want to say?
Totally support what Ms. Peters has said. It's been quite overwhelming to see the support of the community, the staff, co-workers, and I really want to compliment the administrative staff, the central office staff, at the transition that you've made in the last, 4 months. It's been remarkable what a team effort it's been, and it's just a real compliment to the school system and the community.
I can echo the sentiment, and I would also echo the belief that either of the two candidates would be an asset, and preferably both. I'm not sure how that happens, but I think that we found that Dr. Hubbard was also qualified. I would say, however, that his experience leading a school system is an unproven and unknown in our decision. And while he was a principal of an elementary school with 600 students, he's had extensive business experience that I found useful to look at. And he had some good ideas that we could implement. I don't know where he would fit in our system after such a dramatic and impressive performance by Dr. Gardenauer in his role as interim. And that's a high bar to set. For someone to interview for a position where they did not have the ability to show their track record. But we know from Dr. Gardenauer's short track record as interim superintendent, his performance, I believe, was impeccable. And I think you used the term breath of fresh air at one of our meetings where we were discussing it, that people have expressed has been overwhelmingly true. I've had, in my quest to determine if there was going to be an issue, I had not one negative comment from any person that I interviewed. I was told of someone who had a concern but said it was indirect and it was regarding the numbers and testing and things that go along with that nature. That was the only negativity, and it was not regards to him but regards to his statement that we had to be aware of the data, which any superintendent would. So it wasn't directed at him, which I find that speaks volumes. I was just approached prior to the board meeting here by an individual in the galley here today who asked us to, if we specifically discuss their beliefs on Common Core, and it was my perception, and I'm asking you, that both had this similar perception of Common Core and what it means and that sort of thing, that they agreed in philosophy that setting standards was appropriate, but we didn't get into specifics about individual details of Common Core and what that means in our community and in our textbooks and that sort of thing. I think that they agreed that setting standards was appropriate, but what those standards were we didn't get into. Did anybody get a different feel for either superintendent on Common Core? And
they were pretty similar.
We did ask them to contrast the Tennessee standards versus Common Core.
Right.
And basically I think the belief from both were standards were great, and they felt like, communities and states should have more influence over the standards. I don't remember one over the other having anything real different to have to say, but we did ask the questions, and which we feel like is definitely a point of concern for the next several years in education.
Yes. Okay, I had promised I would speak to that. The comment was made that in the past that there was a statement made that those who opposed Common Core were misinformed, and I didn't get the feel that either candidate felt that way from our discussion. So just to answer the question publicly, since it was asked of me, I wanted to do my diligence to make sure that it was represented. Having said that, I also support Dr. Gardenauer fully, and so as far as I'm concerned, I'm finished with my comments and I'm prepared to vote. Okay.
I just want to make a brief comment that I feel like as a board we have been very fortunate through this process to have the opportunity to look at two very capable young men that either one could be a superintendent in any school system at some point in time. But I feel that Dr. Gardenauer, through his interim period, has shown not only me, but I hope some of the rest of you, that he's very capable of running this school system and leading us forward. So that's all I have to say.
I'll just say really quickly, very impressed with the caliber of individuals that we received their applications. It was a risk for Dr. Gardenauer to take the interim position because this time of year, anything can happen. And he more than rose to the occasion. It was an absolute pleasure to meet Dr. Hebrard. He was, Ms. Peters and I were talking about on paper, they were so similar. And when I met him, I came in and I said, they just are similar people. So I said, apparently we have a type. So that was great. Well, shall we vote? So the item on the floor is, I'm guessing we are going to be voting on, I'm not guessing, I know we are. We're going to be voting on our permanent director of schools. And Ms. Perkins, would you call the roll?
Mr. Fleming.
Aye.
Oh, should I say who? We have, haven't done this before. The item on the floor is to hire Dr. Corey Gardenauer as our permanent director of schools for the Elizabethton school system. Now,
Let's go again, Mr. Fleming.
Aye.
Mr. Isaacs.
Aye.
Dr. May.
Aye.
Ms. Peters.
Aye.
Ms. Boer.
aye. It looks like it is my pleasure that we can now welcome Dr. Corey Gardenauer as our permanent director of schools. And I don't know where he is, but let's clap really loud and get him here. adjourn, I want to just say a couple of things. I want to thank Ms. Perkins for doing all the legwork for us. She kept us so prepared. She made sure that our notices were in all the proper publications, and she really, kept us on task and made sure that everything was we just had everything. And she does so much legwork for us, so I appreciate that. I want to thank, yes, I agree with you. I also want to thank Mr. Fleming because as we were going through this process, someone said we should have a rubric. The next day in our email, we have a rubric. We talk about, we want to have questions to discuss and to go over in the interview. So we kind of have bunches of them. The next day there is an email all written out, all nice and neat. So thank you very, very much because that made everything so much simpler. And this could have been a really horrible process, but I want to thank the board. It was actually enjoyable. Everybody was great to work with. And the last thing I want to say is I want to thank Mr. Alexander for leading us the last 8 years. We are not where we are by accident. And the fact that Dr. Gardenauer gets to take us to the next step in that next chapter did not happen without a lot of hard work for the last 8 years. And when Mr. Alexander was appointed superintendent, he did not get a school system like we have now. So he had to do a ton of work, and I would be absolutely remiss if we did not acknowledge the fact that he and his staff and our teachers and our parents and our community worked so hard to get our school system where we are. So a big thank you to him and to all of you who've been here and to get us to where we are today. So thank you very, very much.
Ms. Brewer, I think another point that we failed to discuss is we went into this process thinking it may cost us a considerable amount of money, advertising, and I think we did this on a minimum amount of money. I mean, just if we spent anything, it was very, 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 very minimum, and I compliment everyone on that. I think we tried to be respectful to the community and to where we are monetarily and did a good job with that.
And I do thank Ms. Peters for reminding everyone this was not a foregone conclusion at all. So, well, our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be Thursday, June 21st, 6:30 in the Mac Pierce boardroom. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Hank, a second?
Second.
Thank you. Have a great day.